Are you ready?
Scott, thinking end zone again. Back pylon. It's caught by Grimes. Was he in bounds? Yes, he was!
Hey, think you can tell us what to do?
Throw it. And a man wide open. Touchdown.
Well, you better get ready.
For the Black Knights. Kick on the way. It is good. Army wins.
Break it down.
Welcome to the College Football X with your hosts, John Nelson, John Wilkerson, and Phil Cantor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the College Football X. X marks the spot and also marks where this podcast starts. It's the OSG Sports College Football Podcast featuring the online sports guys. He is OSG Wilkie. He is OSG Nelson. I am OSG Phil. We are about three of the OSG Sports podcasting team, and we're talking about the great, big, wide, wonderful world of college football. Guys, the regular season is over. There was one major level game and a couple of other minor games that happened this Saturday. And we might as well just go ahead and jump into that because we do like to review games here a little bit. Did you get a chance to see Army versus Navy?
Heard about it.
Saw a little bit of it. You know, we're talking about this a little bit before the show started. An interesting game.
Oh, it was an offensively challenged game is what it was.
When is it not?
Yeah.
What's that, John?
When is it not offensively challenged recently?
Exactly. I mean, you got two defensive that know how to defend the triple option. And so it's really, can someone have the cojones to actually throw the ball?
It's Spider-Man pointing it at Spider-Man is what this was.
And yeah, it was toward the end though. You just could not stop watching because obviously the fanfare of it being Army Navy and the crowd shots were amazing. And just, you know, you got kids that aren't going to sniff the NFL, but are giving it their all. And we all know what could happen down the road for some of these kids once they start their military career. But the way it ended with the first overtime game and each on the first possession of the first overtime scoring, and then the heartbreaking fumble, and then the Army kicking the winning field goal, and just on the emotions of both sides, and then the two units coming together and singing. How do your eyes not get moist when you see something like that? It's always my favorite game to watch each year. And this lived up to the billing.
Yeah, and it also is going to be the changing of an era at Navy as the midshipmen part way with longtime head coach Ken Niumatalolo.
Just say Coach Ken, Phil. It's Coach Niumatalolo. Just say Coach.
Niumatalolo.
Niumatalolo. Just say Coach Ken.
After how many years has he been there now? A decade?
Yeah. Decade
or
15.
15. Yeah.
More.
Remember, he's the guy that replaced Paul Johnson.
He replaced Coach PJ back in 2008. Wow. Winning 109 games during that time period and having a lot of success. But
it's one of those things where, to me, it's one of those things where, you know, it's run its course. I mean, he'd been there for, over almost 2 decades. At one point, does your voice start drowning? At what point does your influence within the institution start ebbing? And I think Coach Ken had gotten to that point where it was time for both parties to move on. He's had a tremendous career at Navy. He's kept the academy relevant in college football. And he's going to resurface somewhere if he wants to at a Division I job, whether it be a Group of 5 or even a major college job. I think he's that well thought of in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, Wilkie, you mentioned it, and going back through his tenure, you had a lot of time as an independent, and this was, a lot of you had your independence. It was Army, it was Navy, and Notre Dame independence and things like that. As an independent, under Coach Ken, taking over for Paul Johnson, 8-5, 10-4, 9-4. Then he has a losing season. Then he comes back with 4 more winning seasons, 11-2 in their first year in the American in 2015, 9-5, 7-6, and then when they were 2018, then after the 2019 season when they were ranked 20th in the country at 11-2, it's been 3-7, 4-8, 4-8. It's been a struggle for them since winning that Liberty Bowl in the 2019 bowl season, and I think that you're spot on, Wilkie, is that there just comes a point where the message and the influence get lost. It is not any kind of an indictment on Coach Ken or what he was able to do with the program, being there as the Paul Johnson replacement, but it's just literally, and it sounds cliche the way that it's being presented, but it's time. And you look at the play calling at the end of the game in regulation and then in overtime as well, and it's time. You tip your hat. He's done tremendous things for an independent and for a service academy, but it's now time for a new voice in the program.
And that's a great job. I mean, there's going to be plenty of people that are going to want that. What popped in my mind is, hey, if Paul Johnson wants to get back into coaching, this might be a good landing spot for him. Let's start that rumor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CPJ
back to Navy. Hey, look, but he knows how to run that offense. He knows that program backward and forward. And that's the thing, is that you've got to have an individual who understands the skill set of the student athletes that are there on the football field. The athletic mission is a lot of the time absolutely secondary. Who knows how to run triple option? Who knows how to run veer and can there and jumpstart that program all over again?
Somebody's got to understand that football practice is going to be the highlight of their day.
Yes.
And it's not a job. These are guys that want to be out there and want to butt heads and play a little boy's game. And oh, by the way, get to play a game against some major college competition and actually compete and every now and then win. I think for somebody who has that type of perspective or needs that kind of perspective, I think that's a perfect opportunity for either an up and coming coach or an established coach that, just wants to end their career on a high note at a fun place.
Speaking of coaching changes, a couple of interesting moves here to kind of wrap up the end of the college coaching carousel this year. We got a new head coach at Stanford, and it's not a big name guy that you would have expected it to be. It's Troy Taylor, the former head coach of Sacramento State, who played in the FCS championship game this past week, where they lost to Incarnate Word on.
The 123.6663 game.
Yes,
that was crazy. That's a great pickup for Stanford to keep the Northern California recruiting base there. But once again, we talk about limitations and the understanding of what a program is. You're chasing after high intelligence, high impact individuals who, oh, by the way, will be captains of industry and can play football. It's going to be it's an interesting hire. I like it from the regionalization aspect of it. But when you lose a 123-point shootout in the playoffs in FCS to the University of Incarnate Word, it's definitely a good step up for the Sac State coach.
Yeah, and Sac State's a tough place, even the FCS level, to succeed. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot of resources there, and not a whole lot of football tradition. They're in the Big Sky, which helps. But he was able to turn that program into, they were 12-0 this year, and their only loss was to Incarnate Word. He kind of fits that mold of a guy who seeks those overachievers that David Shaw did. And let's face it, Jim Harbaugh did find a diamond in the rough when he had Andrew Luck as his quarterback. But it was a lot of guys who could overachieve or were coached up during their time in Stanford. And I think that's what Troy Taylor is. That he fits in that mold that has been successful in Stanford. And I can see him being very successful at Stanford with all his Northern California ties and even his ties around the Pacific Northwest and more toward the mountain regions. While there's not a whole lot of talent to pick from that, he'll be able to get some of the brighter kids to come. And, you know, those David Shaw and Jim Harbaugh are great role models for that. I would look at David Cutcliffe too. He was able to do that at Duke, which is a very similar type of student body.
They've proven that program can be successful with the right guy running it. I mean, look at what Stanford's done over the last 15, 20 years until falling off here over the last couple of years, the pandemic really hurting them.
Yep.
But yeah, I like the move too. It should change things up and modernize a little bit what the Cardinals are trying to do, and I'm curious to see how that's going to play itself out. Speaking of Pac-12, we would be remiss in our duty if we didn't mention the first week of Coach Prime featuring him stealing away a top 300 recruit and already starting to make an impact in the world of recruiting. Big surprise, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I'm quite surprised at this, Phil. Yes, I am. ...
Look, this is surprised.
Well, you know, to me, it's he set the bar when he talked to the returning players, and basically, I don't know if you guys seen that video, but basically saying that they don't cut it and there's a transfer portal for you. He set the bar really high in Boulder, and if that's a message to top recruits out there, they heard that message, and we all knew that he was going to be getting some of these big time recruits to now start looking toward Boulder, Colorado, and it's happening. And you know, I tip my hat to the AD of Colorado for making the bold move. We'll see how it shapes out, but I gotta tip my hat to the AD of Colorado for doing what he did.
Yeah, and it's only going to be more headlines before there are less, and we're just now getting to the changeover in the year, so there's going to be a lot to talk about. I want to talk about something else that happened this past weekend, and that's the announcement of your Heisman Trophy winner for the 2022 season. He is Caleb Williams, quarterback for the USC Trojans. First part of this is, guys, do you like the pick? Was he the guy who should have gotten that award this year? And then I want to bring up something else after we're done with this part.
All right. I'm totally good with this. With Caleb Williams winning, you know, to me this was Hendon Hooker's trophy to win, and then when he got hurt, that's when all eyes started shifting toward Caleb Williams. He's in that great offense of Lincoln Riley's. He performed against Notre Dame. I think that sealed it. Max Duggan probably.
The loss to Utah didn't detract from it getting blown out in the Pac-12 championship.
Right, and Max Duggan had put together the game of his life and won the Big 12. That might have detracted it. I talked to three Heisman Trophy voters this past week, and all told me that Caleb Williams was their guy. The Notre Dame game kind of put him over the top, so I expected Caleb Williams to win it. But I think I was disappointed that Hendon Hooker wasn't there, being the SEC Player of the Year, and he was probably going to win the trophy if it wasn't for the injuries. I think the right guy won it.
I get it, but I'm still hung up on the Utah loss.
Well, to me, it's hard to be hung up on that loss because Max Duggan didn't really take advantage of it. He had a good game. He got his bell rung a few times against Kansas State, but TCU ended up losing the game. Had TCU won that game, that might have helped his effort, especially if he would have had a tremendous performance. But that just wasn't the be. And, the K-State TCU game is very similar as far as the outcome to the Utah Southern Cal game now, because Kansas State did dominate them on the line, like Utah did against Southern Cal. But I somewhat see your point, but putting together a national TV performance like Caleb Williams did against arguably the gold standard program, Notre Dame. I mean, come on, they got their own TV contract, and everybody says they're the nation's college football team. To be able to do that on national TV kind of set him apart. But I do see your point, John. But I just think Caleb Williams was the guy to win it.
And then let me go one more.
Yeah.
Knowing that Hendon Hooker was not invited to New York, which to me is a disservice to Hendon Hooker in the season that he had.
Oh, no kidding. That's disrespectful.
Would agree with that.
And I look at what Stetson Bennett has done at the University of Georgia. And I admit that I'm kind of looking at this almost as a career appreciation award for him, considering what he did last year and what they're leaning toward this year. And I still maintain that probably the voting for the Heisman is done far too early anyway, because you still don't have the postseason to look at. And I know it's a TV event. I know that you're supposed to put it right in between everything. I understand it. But I would say that Stetson Bennett, although his percentage was 4 of the 4, I would maintain that his body of work over last year and this year should have given him more of a chance than being 60-year senior.
Well, that leads me kind of into a little bit what I wanted to use as the follow-up here, because it got me just all these different thoughts about who really should have been there, who really shouldn't have been there, who won, who didn't, leads me to this question. Is the Heisman Trophy the same award with the same prestige and the same meaning now that it was pre-college football playoff, pre the year 2000? Because if you look at it, there's a couple things that jumped off the page to me. I was looking this up before we started the show. Since the year 2002, the last 20 years, there have been only 2 non-quarterbacks to win the trophy. Derrick Henry and Devonta Smith a couple of years ago. And out of those, I want to say either 4 or 5 of those 20 players actually had moderate or successful NFL careers. The rest amounted to nothing after they got the Heisman Trophy. Is the award largely irrelevant at this point?
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't hold the same. Well, I don't know if irrelevance is the right word. I just think that it doesn't hold the same cash that it did when we were growing up. I mean, you had Archie Griffin, and you go through the 70s and the 80s, and all of those athletes that we had. And it might be a generational disconnect on our end, but no, I'm of the mindset that it doesn't hold the same kind of cash that it did when we
I tend to differ. I still think it does have meaning to players today, especially for those that are underclassmen, because now they can market being a Heisman Trophy winner for their NIL. So that might add some cash to their coffers. And I think what has diluted it is probably all these other awards that have come out over the past 25 years. The Maxwell Award was always around, but it was kind of it was kind of what the Golden Globes are to the Oscars, right? But now you've got the Biletnikoff Award, you've got the Groza Award, you've got all these other awards based on positions. And now you've got the Walk-On of the Year, the Burlsworth Award, the Frank Broyles Award for the Assistant Coach of the Year. So now you've got just a delusion of all these awards. But I think the Heisman still resonates simply because of the type of players that have won it in the past, and they all come back. And I think there's always going to be that mystique with the Heisman. And I also think there's always going to be the Heisman jinx that comes with it too. So while the luster may have not as bright as it has been, it's still a meaningful award because it goes to the most outstanding player in college football. And, as long as ESPN is willing to pay what it pays the Downtown Athletic Club, and as long as they're going to award that trophy and it stays the same and it still has the same meaning, I think, it's still going to be a relevant award.
But I'll drop this question on you. Is it the best player or is it the most popular player?
Most popular.
Yeah, it says most outstanding. Unfortunately, those are always offensive players because they get all the attention, which makes Charles Woodson's accomplishment even more meaningful. And then you had guys like Hugh Green. You guys remember him from Pitt?
Mm-hmm.
He finished second in the voting behind George Rogers. I think, I think a defensive player can win it again. It's just, where is the Heisman Trophy campaigns now? And I would think really with the NIL money and the freedom of that, those Heisman Trophy campaigns would become a lot more sophisticated than they have been. It's still the same that we've known for the last 30 years. We still get the trinkets in the mail,
Joey
the billboard
Harrington,
here and
billboard in
there,
New York City.
the bobblehead. I've got a few bobbleheads. So I figured those would probably be a little more sophisticated.
Yeah, it all begs some interesting questions, and it harkens back to some old college traditions. The award's been around since 1935. And did you know when it came out in 1935, it was originally slated to be by the Touchdown, the Gridiron Club, or whoever the heck it was in New York that came up with it. It was originally slated to be the best college football player east of the Mississippi. Interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm trying to like Chicago. Yeah, Chicago is east of Minneapolis, so yeah, Jay Berwanger would fit.
He was east of the Mississippi, but barely.
Yeah. There were some people that were not too happy about that, and it eventually changed.
GL wonder why.
But you look at the award too. A lot of it went to Ivy Leaguers at the time, so that's basically what it was probably originally meant for.
Yep.
Yeah, no kidding.
Moving on here, as we kind of wind our way through the month of December, we would be remiss in our duty if we didn't jump over to the big thing that's going to get most people through the holiday season over the next few weeks, even if nobody actually attends the games in person. It's college football bowl season time.
Yippee.
Yay. Yay.
It's that time of year where teams that finish 6-6 get to travel to some faraway land like Boca Raton, Florida, or Frisco, Texas, and play in bowl games where they make enough money to cover their expenses in front of hundreds of people on the ground and about 1 million people on television.
And it's 15 extra practices.
That.
This year, guys, we have 43 bowl games this year.
Well, yeah, if you include the other CFPs, yeah, 41 bowl games in the semis and the finals.
I think like 10 of them are played in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, something that John and Brother Marty are going to get to in the second half of the show. And since we don't have enough, well, we do have enough time because we can go as long as we want, but we're not going to talk long enough to go through every single bowl game this week. To give us partially to give us something to talk about next week.
Okay.
But I want to go through a couple of odd games here because bowl season kicks off Friday, December 16th with your first game of the year, the Hometown Lenders Bahamas Bowl, featuring Miami of Ohio and the soon-to-be coached by Trent Dilfer UAB Blazers.
Take the over.
Are you sure?
Take
Yeah.
the total.
Because
Yeah,
Miami
dude,
can't score, UAB can score, and the way the Bahamas Bowl's gone, it's Miami O is going to put up 70 points and UAB is going to put up 20. Isn't that how it works? Actually, UAB and Miami won the lottery. They get to go to the Bahamas.
Yeah. There are worse places to go in the middle of December than Nassau.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Beaches.
And you stay.
What's the number right now?
UAB by 10.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I like UAB in this one. I like UAB in this one, but I think it's going to be a little tighter than we think.
Yeah,
Okay.
the over-under on it, 44.5.
Oh. Over. Just Miami of you're taking on. I understand the notion that Miami of Ohio can't score, which means that you're laying the onus of all of that to get to the total on BYU. But if you think Wilkie, it's going to be tighter than it is, it's probably going to end up being something like 21-17, 23-17, something like that. So it'd be just under the total.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But it is the Bahamas Bowl. They're going to be partying. It could be a crapshoot.
Wide open first half because everybody's still trying to recover from
Right. And you got Blazer players.
Casino.
And you got Blazer players that are auditioning for Trent Dilfer.
Check.
The other game on Friday the 16th, the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl in beautiful Orlando, Florida, featuring the University of Texas at San Antonio versus Sunbelt Conference champion Troy.
This is sneaky. This is a sneaky good game. Serious.
Yeah, it's not a bad matchup at all.
This one is going to be a fun game early in bowl season, just because of how the bowl alignments line up. And once again, what's the total?
Hold please. We're looking at
the line I see is 2.5.
What's the total?
Troy.
Okay. What's the number?
2.4. The over under 54.5.
Please. Oh, absolute. The over would be my play here because I want to enjoy the game. But you've got two high-powered offenses here. Gunnar Watson from Taylor County High School in Butler, Georgia, and Texas San Antonio that can light it up like nobody's business. This one's going to be a fun one. Take the over and just enjoy the rest.
Now, what I like about this one is the title sponsor, Duluth Trading, makes underwear. Right? So what is the prize package?
Flag bag? Yes. Excuse me?
You heard me.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I absolutely did hear you. The prize package from DuluthTrading.com. Maybe they give you the cooling version of their wares.
Well, if that's the case,
might
I'm
need in
really
Orlando,
going to be
Florida.
curious to see what the prize package is for the next game that we're going to talk about here, and that's the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, featuring a super ironic matchup of Cincinnati versus Louisville. And I say that because Louisville head coach Scott Satterfield just
Going to
left
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
And Jeff Brom's coming to Louisville.
Let's see. My guess is.
Ironically, actually, the other irony part is the two teams square off at Fenway Park in Boston.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to bring temporary seats in where the Green Monster is.
They get to the. Well, and I just hope that they don't get to the 50 and have to turn around and go back the other way.
Oh, like in Wrigley Field? No, I think I think Fenway is a little wider. I'm curious to see what a football game in Fenway is like, and I'm glad it's 11 a.m. Eastern kickoff because the weather could be rough for both teams.
The weather could be a wicked piss, Will. You know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? You get to go to Boston. I'm sure there's some activities that'll be planned for them.
I'll throw it to you in part of their activities.
So, but it's hard. This is a hard game to forecast because both have lost their head coaches. I'm sure there's some players that have taken advantage of the transfer portal and that. So
Or will
we may be seeing some guys out there playing that, well, not a lot of us have followed Louisville and Cincinnati this year, somewhat Cincinnati, but we may not know who's playing for the Bearcats. So, yeah, I think it's going to be worth watching for a quarter and maybe more if it comes really interesting. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like to play a football game at Fenway.
Yeah, I think the early kick and the lack of coaches mean it's going to be an under. It's going to win, but I'll take the under.
Shortly after that game kicks off in the beautiful town of Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, your Cricket Celebration Bowl featuring Jackson State and North Carolina Central. Stay for the halftime.
Yeah, stay for the halftime.
Jackson State, Coach Dion says he's going to be there to finish out his obligation to his team. I'm curious to see how that's going to play itself out.
Players are playing for Dion in the portal. Travis Hunter going to Colorado, guarantee it.
Yes, they're rehearsing for Coach Prime when he moves on to Boulder, and
Jackson State, big way.
And it's a good way for other Pac-12 teams to scout the Buffaloes for next year.
We'll leave that one there. Later that night, the New Mexico Bowl features SMU versus BYU, the acronym game in Albuquerque on ABC.
ABQ, yes.
Again, another game kind of like a pick'em to me.
Well, I think the last team that scores wins.
Yeah.
In this one.
Yeah.
Defense is going to be a rumor in this one.
Yeah, BYU a little bit of a disappointment this season. SMU, not so much. They had a fairly good year. If anything, take the over on this one.
And enjoy Albuquerque.
Same Pony New Express. I'll take SMU. Yes.
All right, I'll make it
don't make a right turn there and end up at Pismo Beach.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. I know what's coming next.
That's a Bugs Bunny joke, kids. Look it up. Speaking of jokes, the next game, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, presented by Stifle or whatever the hell they call themselves.
Stifle.
Yeah.
At SoFi Stadium. Like Washington State in this one right off the bat, they had a pretty good season, better than most expected.
I'll go with the Cougars.
Yeah. I'll go.
Now, what's the swag for this one? Do you get a Jimmy Kimmel bobblehead?
You probably get to sit in the audience at one of his shows.
I was going to say
and I'm thinking that it's probably one of the weirdest swag bags.
Yeah.
Or get Guillermo bobbleheads.
Well, I'm just wondering if at the game will the same PA announcer will be there at SoFi as the one at the Rams games, who has the volume turned up to 11 and has drawn the ire of Al Michaels during the Thursday night broadcast.
Interesting thought. We go down the list.
That might be the highlight of the game.
It could very well be. A little further down the list here, the Lending Tree Bowl, also on late Saturday afternoon, featuring Rice versus Southern Miss, two teams that were really struggling for relevancy within the last couple of years. Both of them now bowl eligible and playing each other in Mobile, Alabama.
Rice is in a bowl game?
And you get a
Rice is in a bowl game.
You get a, and I'm guessing that you get a restructured loan, or at least a navigable mortgage rate on your first home.
Yeah.
in your swag bag.
You get a 2.3 mortgage rate. 5 years to use it.
We'll get you another couple of points to boost your credit score. You get like Hyperion Boost. You get Hyperion Boost and a 2.3 for your mortgage rate on your first home.
Yeah, Rice is playing a little bit of a seat filler there because the Owls finished the season 5-7, yet they're still going to a bowl game.
Well, they're smart kids at Rice, and they're being rewarded for that.
Yeah, let's go APR.
And
Hopefully-
this game could be a 6-3 type game.
Yeah, just hope they don't get the starch knocked out of them.
Yeah.
Stop.
It'll be Wilkie. Yeah, Wilkie. It'll be at 2.3, and it'll go up a quarter percentage point every quarter.
There you go.
Finishing up the list on Saturday, we've got the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl featuring the Florida Gators
The
and
mouthful.
the Oregon State Beavers.
Interesting
Good
matchup.
stuff.
An SEC Pac-12. You got an up-and-coming Oregon State team. I think Jonathan Smith is one of those underrated coaches in college football that's kind of resurrected
That's
that
what it is,
program
like
in Corvallis.
It is.
Florida is going to be
Yes.
interesting because Anthony Richardson won't
right.
be playing.
Because he's going to begin his NFL career despite a less than prestigious college career where he was maddeningly inconsistent, for lack of a better way to put it or pronounce it.
So I'm just wondering how interested the Gators are going to be in
Oregon
this
State.
one. And that because of that, I'm going to go with the Beavers because I think
They're not.
this is a big deal for Oregon State as they resurrect that program. And beating a Florida, an SEC team like Florida, will go a long way going into the 2023 season.
It could do worse than having to take a trip out to Las Vegas, though, in the middle of December.
Play at that
Well,
beautiful dome.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're playing at Allegiant, that's cool and everything, but I really, and we talk about swag bags in this one for your apartment because it's roofing and building supplies. How's that gonna work?
Well, I mean, you get a hammer and some roof nails and maybe some shingles.
Perhaps a Home Depot gift card.
Yeah, really.
Or a gift card to
Like, yeah, if you have something wrong,
You could argue the Florida Gators have a lot of things wrong, but not anything that a roofer or anybody like that could fix.
you can't hide under the roof for that.
To help out at the O-Dome.
Guys, we've only scratched the surface. We've gone through 7 or 8 of the 43 bowl games. The one game we didn't hit on Saturday, this Saturday, the 17th, is a game that's played in Frisco, Texas. And the reason we didn't hit that is because when we come back in the second half of the show, John and Brother Marty are going to go through games in the state of Texas. And trust me when I say this, folks, there's a lot of them.
Just in the Metroplex. Just the Metroplex. We just did the 4 in the Metroplex. We didn't go through the whole state. We had to save some content.
And when we come back in the second half, that's all when we come back in the second half of the show. Stay tuned. We'll be back after the short break.
Please like and subscribe.
Hey, what's up? This is Darius Rucker. There are thousands of homeless veterans on the streets of our nation tonight. They're waiting for housing they are already approved for, but need the rental deposit to get into their home. Join VeteransMatter.org and help house 1,000 veterans as quickly as possible. Text VETS to 41444 and pledge any amount. Text VETS to 41444. They fought for us, now we fight for them. Veterans Matter.
Warning. Orthopedic surgeons are seeing an increase in overuse injuries when young athletes perform the same repetitive stressful motions over and over. Pitching, tennis, weight training, even long swimming workouts can cause overuse trauma that may require surgery. If your kids play and train hard, visit orthoinfo.org or stopsportsinjuries.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine.
You think it's funny when Stone Cold Steve Austin rolls into a dry county? What? You think it's funny? What? Huh?
All right, so this is a little bit different this time around. We're kind of multitasking here during the bowl season. John here, Marty there, and Marty, since he is in charge of the Dallas Bureau, he is our man in the Metroplex. What Marty gets to do, and what we're going to do over the next little bit, is give you the preview of all of the games in the Metroplex for the bowl season, and there are 312 of them, or more accurately, that. And it's always, for us here at OSG Sports, it's always fun to sit there and look at all of the bowl games because, you know, everybody sits there and they'll focus on the CFP. You know, Marty, everybody's like, yeah, let's go to the end. But I always find that there's just as much intrigue, just as much intrigue in the games that start us off on this upcoming weekend as there are when we're looking at the CFP and we have all of our parties.
Yeah, you know, starting us off
Mm-hmm.
is a school that you might actually be wearing right there.
Okay.
University of North Texas.
Here we go. Yep, Mean Green.
Against Boise State Blue Broncos because of that turf. That's these two teams. This is a matchup of trick kick returns.
Wow.
Boise pulling the laying down in the blue jersey in the blue end zone, camouflage, and UNT absolutely pulling down Arkansas's pants and doing the fake fair catch and housing it. The intrigue on the UNT side, though, they let go of their. Oh, actually, first,
yes,
the AD is now transferring. Well, not transferring. Do you have a transfer portal for ADs?
I think so. I think your AD is portaling now.
He's going to West by God, Virginia. So that'll be an interesting move for him. Good guy. You know, I used to work at University of North Texas. Great guy, and wish him well up there. But then they went, and the president of the university, Neil Smatras, decided to let go of the football coach who has 1 year left on his contract.
That's Luttrell, yeah.
So no coach, no AD going into this game.
He gets fired after the loss to Texas San Antonio. And I know a lot of folks are looking at the Boise State defense and the running game. And a lot of folks are looking at that 7.5 number for Boise State coming out of the blocks and going, yeah, with all of the chaos going on at North Texas, folks are thinking possibly 10, double digits. Boise comes in with a record of 9-4. The Mean Green come in with a record of 7-6. This one is slated for Saturday night, 9:15 on the 4-letter. And just so you know, and we're going to encourage folks to go to bowl games. We're going to encourage you give back to your local economy and catch one of these 41 or more than one of these 41. Like if you're in the Metroplex, how many can you see there, Marty? How many?
You can see 4.
Yes.
And there's also one I want to stump for that's kind of close to my heart is, when you get these games where the tickets are like $10 and $8, you can donate to, there's a website called Vet Tix, and they donate them to, all around the country. So like if you see that the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl has $5 seats, you could buy 10 of them and donate them to Vet Tix, and they will send service members or families of people that have been MIA, and so that they can go to a bowl game during the holiday season. It's a great charity, and it's just kind of nice to see those seats getting filled up by people that really appreciate it and deserve some time off.
No doubt about it. Tickets as low as $42 to get into Toyota Stadium, where you can go catch the National Soccer Hall of Fame while you're hanging out there.
Say hi to Gina Miller.
Exactly. And Austin Ahn, who has put up some tremendous numbers this year as quarterback for the Mean Green. You look at what he's been able to do, completing about 57% of his passes in that Seth Luttrell offense, over 3,300 yards passing for a 7-6 team, 32 TDs and 13 interceptions. But looking at this one at first blush, Marty, it's probably going to be a long day for the Mean Green. But of course, we always say things like this, and Team Chaos traditionally ends up being the one that makes the marker here.
Yeah, you have that factor of you don't want to get in a fight with somebody that's got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a whole sideline of coaches that are auditioning for their next jobs, be it getting promoted at University of North Texas or wherever else they're going to go. So they want to show out. And then you've got some seniors going out. Mose, One of my favorite Polynesians on that team. They were actually a family affair. His brother just graduated, I believe, last year. It's his last game. It's Austin Hoon's last game. Granted, he's, I think, 30.
Yeah.
He played minor league ball. I'm not cracking on him. I went to school
No.
for a longer time than most people, but he actually played minor league ball and then came in to UNT. So he's going to be trying to enter the draft in the NFL, or one of the other leagues. He can chuck it. I mean, they're putting up 33 points a game, almost 34. They're putting up 463 yards of total offense average per game.
Most of them coming through the air at about a 75% of clip of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people auditioning here, both players and coaches. So I think you're going to see a lot from theirs, where I'm not sure how invested Boise State is in coming to Frisco.
No doubt about it.
So the motivation factor, I know that the four letters analytics are heavily leaning towards Boise State, but you got UNT not wanting to get their noses rubbed in front of their home crowd. And they have a history of losing bowl games. So I'm getting a feeling there's going to be a little bit of extra fire lit under them going into this game.
Yeah, it started at 7.5, and it has made its way up into double digits. As you look at it, it's gone up to 10 with a total of 56.5. Juice boxes have your money line for Boise at a -405. North Texas is at a +310 as a double-digit underdog right now. So, and maybe if you have like a really odd flavored juice box in the back of the fridge that's past its expiration date by a good couple of months, and you're like, oh, what's this in the back of the fridge? And you sit there and you're looking at it and go, oh, September. Maybe you want to take that juice box and put it on North Texas from everything that you are positing.
So you're tuning a fruit juice into a wine, is what you're saying.
Yes, I am. That is absolutely.
It's time of the season for that.
Yes, it is.
I just think there's going to be some motivation there with the amount of disrespect and the fact that they want to send out the team that the coach assembled. They want to send them out on a winning note, I think.
Yeah, and I remember a Stone Cold Steve Austin promo about wanting to disrespect folks, and it was Stone Cold actually said, "We're going to D." And then it was the what promo, and he spells disrespect, and he goes, "We're going to disrespect all over the dead man's ass." And so that's what I think. That's where I think you're leaning with this particular bowl game with our friends at North Texas and Epidge.
And as you know, Stone Cold is a former UNT player.
Excellent. That's a great pull this early in the morning. That's fantastic. That's good work. Bowl game number 2, Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Thursday, December 22nd, 7:30 Eastern Time at Amon G. Carter, the remodeled in recent years Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. Last year, Army knocked off Missouri by the score of 24-22. And I think this year, Marty, I think it's going to be easy to sit here and say take the over. You've got Air Force at 9-3, Baylor at 6-6. And I think that both teams probably have just scored again by the time. I mean, they will go into this game with like having scored 28 points already. I'm taking the over in this one. I don't care what anybody says. It's going to be, you're going to get a lot of scoring. Right now, get this. Baylor is a 6.5-point favorite at 6-6. They're a 6.5-point favorite. Your total's 49.5. Money line for Baylor is a -260. And for Air Force, it's a +210, and they're the one with the record of 9-3.
Their defense is tough. They're only allowing 13, 14 points a game.
15 points a game, yeah.
Now, granted, they're only have to defend the pass during this.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I'd definitely take the over on this game because Baylor's not going to stop anything.
Right. And to your point about Baylor's defense, points per game, it's 33.6 on average for Baylor, 27.7 for the Air Force. So you add those two together, that's 60 already.
And that's against tougher defenses. Not to shade Baylor.
No.
Don't mean to cause hate in my own state, but
no.
They're far enough away, I don't got to worry. There's no defense in the Big 12.
No, points allowed per game, 26.6 for Baylor. And as you said, only 13.3 for Air Force this year. And you mentioned the passing versus running. Air Force averages about 400 yards in total offense per game, only 68 of that on average through the air. Not a surprise. And we know what we're going to be getting from Air Force. Tickets as low as $20 on the secondary market to head into Amon G. Carter Stadium for this one. What else is on your mind?
Which is it's below face. And the one thing that's kind of neat at that stadium is everything on the upper deck is general admission. So if you opt for those cheaper seats, you could sit anywhere you want. And it's great. It's a good atmosphere. My nephew and I went to that last year. That's actually become our uncle and nephew go-to bowl game every year now. The pregame festivities are pretty good because last year they started playing Van Halen Jump. And then they proceeded to have all of the armed forces paratroopers drop and come into they brought down the game ball, and then each one brought a flag of each armed service branch. Nice. And it was amazing. They all circled, they all nailed the 50-yard line. It was if you're going to have somebody jumping out of a plane, these are going to be the most accurate people. And it was a pretty good win too. Atmosphere is great there. If you're in the DFW area, I can't recommend a game enough. The only thing I don't like about TCU, other than that's my wife went to SMU and hates TCU with a passion, even though we have family members currently going there.
There's your Lance McElhenney jersey right there off the shoulder.
Ooh, right. They don't do parking well.
Oh, okay.
So make sure you get a plan of attack for your parking before. But they do have a nice pregame village set up where you can go and see things about the different armed forces, and they also have one inside as well. As far as game action goes, I know they're the underdog, but I kind of like Air Force.
Okay.
Because you have the extra motivation of military men that are playing in front of a ton of other military men and women. And they're not going to want to get their noses rubbed in when literally the entire armed forces is watching, because this game's not only on ESPN, but it's also going across the armed forces network. So that this is going to be worldwide, literally, to all the bases. So, all their friends that are deployed elsewhere can see this game. So they're going to be a little bit extra motivated, I think. And Army showed last year, they had no business being in that game. They were expected to get blown out, and they did that last minute drive. They lost their quarterback, and they ended up chucking it with a backup quarterback, and they were passing to win that game.
That's fantastic.
It was amazing. And then they had a Tonka truck for a running back.
Okay. I was like, finish your sentence. I was like, where are you going?
Oh my goodness. That guy was a large man. He looked like not a tight end, but he looked like a defensive end. It looked like Myles Garrett was toting the rock, and he was just destroying people. And they knew it was coming. I mean, they're lined up back there with nobody out wide, and he looked like a man possessed.
There's nothing wrong with 5'11", 255, toting the rock from the tail or from the halfback. That's good stuff. Okay, so let me ask you this before we go to the third one, which is ServPro First Responder. Without giving away all of your secrets, you mentioned the parking situation. How would you approach getting there early? And like I said, I don't want you to give away your secrets because I want you to have your time. I want you to have your family time, and I want you to be having the fun time. What would you recommend other than getting there early?
Being as I have family that goes to school there, I am going to opt to drive somebody else's car with a sticker on it.
Ah, there you go.
But I would recommend hitting the bowl game website, and it's going to show you which ones are open for that. Last year, we had no idea where to park, and there wasn't much signage. And we saw a young kid that was standing at one of the student ones, and I shook his hand with something in my hand. And he said, "Have a nice day, sir."
And it was not a joy buzzer. Well played. Nicely.
Yeah, so, when I went in there blind last year, expecting it to be like most colleges where there's signs everywhere and there's people with flags, and they didn't really have that I don't know if it's the exit we took, because I actually live close to that stadium, so we kind of went back roads. But go on the website beforehand, and they actually have all the parking listed on there.
Okay. Let's check the numbers quickly, and they have not changed since we started talking about it. So we're good to go there. Bowl game number 3 is Tuesday, December 27th, 3:15 in the afternoon Eastern Time. ServPro First Responder, Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Memphis and Utah State in the ServPro First Responder. Memphis and Utah State both coming in with records of 6-6, but the lean here is heavy Memphis. Tickets as low as $16 on the secondary market.
My goodness. The I might end up being a fan for the Dogs across my I think my wife and I are going to get a passport made and then do little stamps at each stadium.
There you go.
For our bowl game passport.
Nothing wrong with that. I love that. Memphis is a 7-point favorite. Your total at 62.5. Money line with your juice boxes. Memphis is a -305. Utah State is a +240.
See, I'm troubled by, I'm looking at the 4-letter analytics there, and it's over 80% for Memphis. And I don't know. Utah's got some horses up front on the line.
That is true.
I'm leaning towards Utah in this.
Okay. Nothing wrong with nothing wrong.
I mean, you got two mediocre teams going against each other.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what a lot of these and what a lot of folks,
you look at their they average a game, and it's not too far off. Aside from points per game, Memphis is getting home a little bit more, but yards per game, not too far off. They do pass a lot better at Memphis, but I'm going to go back to the Polynesian side of my family, and there's a bunch on Utah State's team, which means it's a 98% certainty that they got family here in DFW. So they might get a little bit more of a crowd support out there.
Well, I mean, you're looking at, and a lot of folks are thinking that because you have two teams at 6-6, that you're going to have a lot of fun with this game. Utah State, with their win last bowl season over Oregon State, and that
was huge.
And they finished with a 5-2 run to get into bowl season. But once again, you look at strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff. But Memphis, a lot of folks look at Memphis with the over, I think, being probably the play here. Last year, Air Force Louisville by the score of 31-28, and so you're looking at a bowl game that kind of fits somewhere in the middle when it comes to likability factor and something like that. But once again, a lot of times when you get these lower bowls, and this was why we wanted to have conversations about all of them, you get two teams that are 6-6. They're just out there, and it's just like, all right, let's just wing it and see what happens. And then you end up with some of the better programming that you have during bowl season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get some players that might not show for it. You get some players that were like bubble with where they were on the roster and the depth chart, and it's like, what do I got to lose? Let's see what this kid can do for next year. So you got the audition factor, and then it being a bowl game and the last thing of the year, there's a lot more. You're playing a lot more relaxed, and I think that's that's half the fun of watching the bowl games. There's so many games that you don't have any, you don't have a horse in the fight, but it's just fun to watch for the excitement and seeing some of these players get chances they didn't get during the regular season.
Bit of a homecoming for Seth Hennigan, the sophomore quarterback from Denton out of Memphis. For him this year, 64% completion rate, just under 3,300 yards, 19 TDs, 8 interceptions, to follow up from his freshman year at Memphis, where he had a couple of more yards, and I mean that literally, 35 more yards passing as a freshman than he did as a sophomore, 25 TDs in his freshman year. So slightly less output from the passing game at Memphis, but it's a homecoming for Seth Hennigan to play in this bowl game.
Oh, he'll definitely get a good bit of crowd from Denton, because those people love their football up there. I can speak to that.
Yes. And you mentioned, we always like to talk about points scored, points allowed, points per game. Memphis averaging just under 35 a game, but they give up 27. Utah State, 23 they average in scoring, but they give up 31. So once again, you look at that total, and
that's definitely to take the over game.
You're looking at the total there as your number one play on the board. Now, we get to the bowl game that is the last one in the Metroplex, the one of 4.
Oh, I do have one tip for this bowl.
Go for it.
Being a DFW transplant.
Yes.
If you do want to go to this game, get on the Dart.
Okay.
Go to Mockingbird Station or just drive to Mockingbird Station. They have covered parking. That's free. It's literally the other side of the freeway. So you cross the street and then you're right at that stadium, just off 75.
All right.
And then there's a lot of nice restaurant options over there too.
Okay.
So if you're staying at a hotel, like if you're visiting family here, you can just hop on the Dart, get dropped off right at that stadium, cross the street, and you're there. It's literally across the street.
Monday.
That street's a highway.
Yes, but
still. It's across it.
Yeah. Monday, January 2nd, and there's a lot of different subplot into this one. The Cotton Bowl Classic, since the tire manufacturer that is attached to it has not sponsored this show yet, we're going to sit there and say, you have fun. And if you'd want to sponsor the shows in the network, feel free at any time. Number 10 USC, number 16 Tulane, at 1 o'clock Eastern time on the four-letter app at Jerry World. And obviously interest may have peaked a little bit because of the quarterback at USC, Caleb Williams, winning the Heisman Trophy. But the interesting element in this right now, as we're looking at it, okay, so I have secondary ticket market at $9 to get into this game at Jerry World. So to see the Heisman Trophy winner, you could drop $9 to get into Jerry World to see 11-2 Tulane and 11-2 USC.
Now, if you buy a soda while you're there, you'll spend twice as much money.
That is absolutely true.
But I mean,
how
can you pass up an opportunity to see a Heisman Trophy winner
for $9? You saw 6, didn't you?
I saw as low as 8, and those disappeared pretty quick.
Okay.
We have my family. We're season ticket holders to the Cotton Bowl, so we pretty much go every year unless the tickets start going crazy with inflation. They put on a good show there. I got to say, it's a fun week leading up to it. Every year they bring both bands to have a battle of the bands that's open to the public. So even if you're not going to go to the bowl game, if $9 is too steep for you, you can go the day before and see both bands. And with USC's band, you definitely want to see them play.
Yes.
We went previously, saw them do a battle of the bands with Ohio State, and it went long.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. If you don't like football, but your kids are in band, take them down for that.
There you go.
It's a good time.
Band parents unite.
And the price is right.
No kidding. USC is a 1.5 favorite. Tulane is on the money line is a -102. Both teams on the minus side on the money line. USC a 1.5 favorite. Your total at 62, which is intriguing on a bunch of different levels. I'm going to sit here and go, I like the total because you figured that the Heisman Trophy winner is going to want to sling it around the yard.
Especially in front of an owner that likes to spend money.
And your full circle irony of the quarterbacking game, considering what we've been talking about with the attachments to bowl games. You have Pratt and Williams, even though it's not quite Pratt and Whitney. It's Pratt and Williams are your two quarterbacks here, and you've got Caleb Williams threw for over 4,000 yards. Michael Pratt out of Boca Raton, Florida, the junior, 6'2", 210. This season, thrown for almost 2,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But one of the things you have to pay attention to with Tulane is their running game. One of the pure talents in this country, Ty Spears, he went off in the American Championship game, and he is going to be hard to bring down. The 5'10", 195-pound junior out of Ponchatoula, Louisiana. He's going to be a hard one to bring down at 1,376 yards this season, 15 touchdowns. So I think
I was going to say, he doesn't run out of bounds because 15 touchdowns, that's what's a die only has 9 on the year. So this guy doesn't stop.
And Ty Spears, he can break off a big run at any time, and it's something that USC is going to have to prepare for. Offensive numbers, we get into that a little bit. Points per game average on offense, Tulane just a little over 35. USC a little over 41. Points allowed, Tulane has the better per game average at 20.5 points a game per game allowed on defense. 28 points, 27.9, but 28 points allowed for USC so far on the year. Last 5, to give you an idea as to how form is coming into this one. Tulane has won their last 3. The American Championship game is a part of that, the 45-28 win at home against UCF. They won at Cincinnati. They put 59 on SMU in Tulane, lost at UCF, so they got revenge in the championship game with the game being at home, then beat Tulsa. USC's last 5, I know a lot of folks are looking at the wins over Cal, Colorado, UCLA, and Notre Dame, but that loss to Utah, 47-24 in the Pac-12 championship game, a lot of folks are looking at that, and the tape is out.
Yeah, add to the fact that how many buffets is Williams going to be going to between now and then, which has been known to, if you're not a playoff team, you go on that circuit, and that can sap the motivation a little bit in a bowl game.
Why, if I am looking at Tulane and more specifically the total, why am I not flinching at that idea?
I wouldn't flinch either, because you're looking at a team that's it's getting disrespected. They're not that far from home. That's a drive. You could drive from there to here.
There's going to be a boatload of crazy folks,
especially when they realize it's $8 and $9 seats.
Ooh, you are not kidding.
So if you're in Louisiana and listening, get online, grab some seats, hoot and holler.
Go get your tickets. I mean,
yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
Granted, they might be a better spot for New Year's, but we have pretty good fireworks here.
And remember, last year in the CFP semifinal, the Cotton Bowl Classic is a part of the New Year's Six. It was a part of the CFP semifinal. Alabama knocked off Cincinnati last year, 27-6, and so that was your Cotton Bowl last year. Cotton Bowl this year. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going to find my Tulane national champion 1998 T-shirt, and I will wear it on January 2nd. Guarantee it.
I'm in. I've got a nice green wave hat with the helmet logo they occasionally rock with the old school logo with the
angry wave.
The angry wave.
There you go.
What is the angry wave's name?
I don't know. That's a good question. So
that might be today's trivia. Do we have any hats to give away?
Oh, I'm sure we'll come up with some kind of swag to give away. If anybody knows the name of the angry wave, not like the new one when if they resurrected it and they rebirthed it and that kind of stuff. What's the name of the angry wave at Tulane? Does it have a name? Let us know.
Phil, I want you to drop in a graphic right here in the video.
There you go. So that's the beauty of post-production when you're doing things like this. So I think that our general consensus, Marty, in all of these bowl games there at OSG Southwest is take the dog and really take the total.
Yeah, I'm dog all the way across these.
And
I've been an underdog all my life, so I'm not going to stop now.
And at the same time, if you once again go ahead and mention that charity one more time.
Vet Ticks. So you can buy tickets to a game you're not going to go to, donate to them, and they'll distribute it to families in the area that want to go to the game. And it's completely free of charge for those veterans or the family of people that were missing or killed in action.
And you're looking for something to do possibly very, very good for other folks toward the end of the calendar year. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint. You know what we're talking about there. You can help out our friends at Vet Ticks. Very, very cool stuff. So that is 10% of the bowl picture. 4 out of 41. And it's the fun part of the year where we're all glued to televisions. And remember, they're television programs in one aspect. They're there to fill blocks of about 3.5 hours at a time. Sometimes it's office parks in suburban Chicago, Illinois that are sponsors for bowl games. Sometimes it's islands themselves and ministers of tourism. And sometimes it's great causes. So, Marty, I'm looking forward to these first 4. And we also have the tail end of the Shield season that we've got to get into as well. But obviously, that's a part of college football that we're talking about here. I think it's going to be fun there in the Metroplex.
Oh, for sure. Not to mention the entire XFL organization.
The X.
They are housed down the street from Jerry World.
Oh,
Choctaw Stadium. They're using office space there. So the scouts are there. They're actually training there currently. everybody that was just drafted just about 2 weeks ago.
And
so you got a little bit of that. So there's going to be scouts at all these games because it's a short drive to all of them.
And we'll be covering all the XFL games as possible that we can get our hands on here at OSG Sports. So he's Marty. I'm John, and I'm wearing my my Epigee Stadium T-shirt for the Mean Green, because when you're incoherent, nothing wrong with being mean, especially if it's the Mean Green and they're chasing bowl games, even if they don't have their head coach. So it's going to be fun stuff. That is here at OSG Sports. Follow, like, subscribe on all of our different platforms at OSG Sports, all across the board, theonlinesportsguys.com. So, Marty, send us home.
Please like and subscribe.
Oh, I love that. I love that.